Thank you for joining in very fast. Revolution now. You know, Comrade Miguna, for those of you who may not know him, is one of the great revolutionary leaders in Kenya. As at the time we were trending revolution now here in Nigeria, we were fighting around revolutionary slogans and revolutionary demands. You would observe that at the point revolution now was also trending globally. And when a lot of us went ahead to check conversations under the revolution, we discovered that they were trending from Kenya. So, and just as we have the convener of revolution now in Nigeria, the person of Omoyele Sowore, we also have same with Kenya. Miguna, thank you, Comrade, for blowing in very, very fast. So, and I do hope we have more people join us. But to open the floor for discussion, to open the floor for this very, 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 very robust engagement, I would like to call our very own Comrade Deji Adeyanju. Comrade Deji Adeyanju. It does not need much introduction. It does not need much introduction. We all know him. A brave fighter par excellence. So, to introduce him in any regard would have probably been insulting him or assuming he's not a known fighter, both to the poor, oppressed, and every strata of society. So, Comrade Deji Adeyanju, thank you for coming in very early. This is exactly the way we intend to build our country called Nigeria. So I will be unmuting you now. Like I said, the topic is a broad topic. Feel free to explore all possibilities. Is the reason we did not attach specific caveat to whatsoever anyone will be discussing. We do not intend to streamline your area of conversation. So feel free to explore as many areas as possible in this very elaborate discourse. So Comrade Deji, I'll be unmuting you now to speak to the subject matter for the next 10 minutes.
Hello?
Hello, Comrade. Yes, I can hear you.
Yes. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for providing this platform to air our views, to rub minds with fellow compatriots, and also see how we can provide alternatives to everything that's going on in our country. As you will all, first, let me appreciate the host. Let me appreciate my comrade brother who is from Kenya. I followed all that he's been doing over the years. One of the most amazing debates that I can never forget about Comrade Miguna is that there was a debate between him and some candidates, and he was asking one of them, you know, that where is the source of your money? All this money that you say you've gathered, you know, what is the source? So it's so nice to exchange views with my brother, and hopefully my brother Bobby Wine will also be joining, my friend and my compatriot Omoyele Sowore, and every other person, Juwon, everybody that has been here, you know, putting pressure to ensuring that the right thing is done. Now, first, I want to talk about the area of insecurity that is plaguing the country. You know, Section 14 of our Constitution says that protection for security and well-being of the people shall be the primary responsibility of government. You know, and any government that is unable to secure its citizens, you know, has failed. What we are witnessing in our country in the last 5 years is even beyond failure. It's a situation where government has, you know, conceded a majority of a territory of a country to bandits, criminal groups, and elements in the country. For the first time in our history, our government has made it a government policy to negotiate with criminals, terrorists, bandits, you know, and non-state actors who have taken up arms against the country. You know, and so it makes criminality profitable, because when government begins to say, oh, they negotiate with terrorists. They forgive terrorists, because Nigeria is the only country in the world where I see that terrorists are forgiven. Terrorists even repent, and claim that they turn a new leaf, and all that. So whether we like it or not, our constitution shouldn't just be a paper that has no effect whatsoever. At least the constitution should be worth something. It's a country where, we take loan, debt after death. Even our budget for this year, we cannot fund our budget for this year. We have to borrow money to fund the budget, and we don't know where. And the performance index for each budget since 2015 has not been up to 30%. So you find a situation where the country is on autopilot. Look at a situation where we have a president that practically supports the killer headsmen going around the country terrorizing people. So you will not really blame non-state actors who are also trying to do the same, or who are trying to defend themselves. However, what I have been consistent in saying is that if we allow non-state actors in all parts of the country to take up arms, we'll go back to the era of Tarzan. We'll go back to the era of Hercules. We'll go back to the era of the barbarians, where physical might, power, strength, criminality will reign supreme. And the essence of law is to regulate conduct. And that's why we're saying the reason why the country has become a lawless society is because we do not have a functional government. And it appears that we do not even have a president. Because if we do have a president, we will not have a situation where the president, with all that is going on, plaguing the country, all that is going on today in the country, you find a situation where the president, is junketing to his village to go and do party activities, party affairs. So you find a situation whereby the president has gone to Daura in his village to go and spend 4 days on politicking, thereby leaving governance, in the hands of bandits. The road from here to Kaduna, which is less than 200 kilometers, we cannot police it. Then how can we police Southwest? How can we police the Southeast? How can we police the Northeast, Northwest, North Central? So fundamentally, we have a leadership problem in our country. And it's everywhere on the continent. Everywhere I've gone to on the continent is the same problem. Because good people refuse to join politics, therefore, it is only the bad people that join politics that will be up to be elected. And until good people begin to join politics, this circle will continue. And for me, I've been saying it consistently that our constitution cannot be a worthless piece of document. If you look at the chapter 2 of our constitution, which basically deals with issues around governance, security, jobs, equality, the constitution as it is, especially that chapter 2, is a wonderful piece of document. But unfortunately, the drafters of the constitution says that that part 2 cannot be enforced, because according to the constitution itself, it says that chapter 2 of the constitution is non-justiciable. So you see rights that have been given in chapter 2. In chapter 4 and other chapters of the constitution, the same rights are taken away from the people. So you find out that we cannot have anything meaningful as a country until we restructure, because that is the only thing that can provide the solutions to almost all our problems. And anyhow you look at it, for instance, you look at a situation where the constitution gives specific rights to citizens, specific rights. And these specific rights cannot be enforced in any court of law, because the same constitution says that you cannot enforce them. So then what is the essence of giving the rights in the first place? Look at the issue of corruption. Nigeria is one of the most corrupt countries in the world now. And we had a man who came on board saying that the previous administration and the previous political parties were corrupt, and that's why he campaigned for change. Look at the level of dictatorship, attack against the press. Just this week, internet access to one of the media organizations in the country was restricted. In a democracy, look at how NSAS protesters were killed on the street. Look at how Shiites were massacred in Zaria. Look at how IPOB members were shot on the street. Look at what happened in Olu in Imo State just some few days ago, where soldiers went and killed unarmed people doing their legitimate businesses, in Imo State, in the eastern part of the country. So any aspect of the country you look at, whether it's unemployment rate, inflation rate, the economy, where in fact, things have never been this bad before, and the same people the same people who came into power, you know, agitating for good governance, agitating for equality, they are the ones who are now doing what is worse than what the previous government did. And for the first time in the history of this country, you have a situation where citizens are generally afraid to speak. The civil society in the country is terrified. The press, same thing. You know, even the opposition is almost completely docile. You know, and one thing that we must do as citizens is to reawaken the consciousness, you know, of citizen action, because leaders will not live up to their responsibility and their obligation unless citizens also discharge the onus and the obligation placed on them by the Constitution. You know, and whether you like it or not, one thing that we must say is that everything it's going to be business as usual until citizens begin to say they've had enough. We have seen what our brother did in Uganda, Bobby Wine, without money, without so much years, you know, in his favor. But he has been able to, for the talent of Uganda to admit that, because before he usually win 92% to 8%, for him to even admit, despite blatant rigging that we have seen online everywhere, for him to even admit that the opposition scored 30-something%, you know, means that he was completely and comprehensively disgraced and defeated. So anyhow we look at it perspectively, we must begin to tell ourselves the truth, that our country is not working, that the continent is not working, that the reason why the continent is referred to as that continent is because in the 21st century, where people are making scientific innovations, advancements, you know, and several development, we are still taking up arms to fight each other. A situation where people will be making attempts to excommunicate themselves from various parts of the country and singing war songs, you know, cannot augur well for the country, because the world has gone way beyond that. You know, we need to think outside the box and make sure that we begin to look at the dynamics of governance all over the world. Anyhow we look at it again, on the other end, we discover that Nigerians, Africans are not asking for the impossible. They are not asking for the scientifics. They are not asking to go to the moon. They're just asking to have water to drink, you know, jobs that they can, you know, they can do for their life, for them to be secured. Why wouldn't the government be able to secure farmers in their farms? Because herders are rearing cows in the 21st century when they should be in ranches, you know. So, and these are private businesses, you know. And so, because when there seems to be no law in the country, where there seems to be no law in the country, people will begin to suggest, people will begin to take the law into their hands, and we'll have a breakdown of law and order, and anarchy will reign. And that's why we are witnessing the growing tension in the country, because there has been leadership vacuum, there has been failure on the part of the leaders, and therefore citizens are beginning to improvise. Citizens are also beginning to take the law into their hands. And at the end of the day, it's going to be a lose-lose situation, because we have seen a repeat of this over the years, where non-state actors, you know, have taken up arms against the country. The entire Boko Haram menace started as people trying to arm certain people to achieve a particular aim. And you see, the thing they were trying to prevent, you know, was prevented. However, you know, the disadvantage of taking up arms against, by arming those people, you know, has cost the country, you know, more than, you know, we can see. Again, one thing that I also need to tell people generally is that whether, anyhow you look at it critically, you will discover that the basics of governance is to provide an alternative. And where the opposition does not provide an alternative, where citizens do not challenge government, where citizens do not provide the platform to checkmate leaders will have a field day. And this is why I keep saying that the best way to have a developed country is to make sure that no party is allowed to do second term. For instance, imagine what we have witnessed in Ghana, where the ruling party always loses the election. It's just now that Nana Akufo-Addo was lucky to get re-election. It puts the political actors on their toes. Because if you look at Nigerian legislators, they earn the highest in the world. They practically do nothing. All they have been doing in the last 5 years is formulating anti-people policies. You know, so when a political party wins an election and he loses when they are running for second term, in fact, in my view, most governors should not be allowed to do second term, because when they are not allowed to do second term, the person who is coming from the opposing party will sit up. He will be desperate to prove a point. He will be desperate to leave impact. And for me, I believe that, and that's why you're having a tyrant in Uganda doing over 30-something years, and he doesn't want to leave because he has gotten so comfortable, on the seat, and he sees himself as helping the people or as a god of the people.
Okay, thank you, Comrade DJ. I don't know if you've rounded up, but you have about 1 minute left so that you can make your final conclusion.
Yes. Okay, so in closing, what I would just simply say is very simple, that both as citizens, as stakeholders, as leaders, if we expect equity, if we expect equality, then we must do equity as well, because those who come to equity must come with clean hands. And the only reason why tribalism, why nepotism, why bigotry reigns in Nigeria is because you see a situation where somebody will tell you that people from his particular ethnic group are the ones that must be rulers in Nigeria. How can you justify a situation where we do not allow the Igbos to enjoy the benefits? We do not allow them to enjoy the benefit of leading the country, and we are telling them that they should not agitate to leave, because marriage is not by force. If somebody is in a marriage and they are not enjoying the marriage, the natural thing is that they will want to leave the marriage. You understand? So we cannot talk about equity in 2023 and we will now be saying that power again should go to the Southwest. These are people who have done 8 years as president. They're going to do 8 years as VP, and presidency again should go back to them. So we must do equity. We must do equity if we want to have a society, a country that we can all call our own.
Okay.
I have made my point known very clear all the time that I'm a fan of a big country. However, those who are agitating for its separation, they also have the right to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Comrade DJ. That was quite enlightening. I'm sure a lot of us have our questions for Comrade DJ, so I would advise that we pen them down, because there will be time for questions, there will be time for comments. So let's just pen this down. As you know, we have other speakers from other parts of the African continent. And for us within the revolution, our aim is to ensure we defeat the dictators everywhere, both from Nigeria down to Ghana, to Kenya, to Uganda, everywhere they have, because Africa generally is held tight to the grip of dictatorship, hardship, and all of the terrible ships. In order to speak to this subject matter is Comrade Miguna. And before I invite him to speak, we must know that our ruling class across Africa, generally speaking, are united in the aims of keeping the poor people of Africa in perpetual poverty, in unprecedented hardship. They are united at the level of the African Union. It is no wonder, so don't be surprised why this Ugandan dictator Museveni was leading election in Uganda. No single African president made a statement, made an authoritative statement to caution this crass impunity. But before I do not need to speak much, immediately let me bring on the revolutionary from Kenya, Comrade Miguna, to thrill us within the next 10 minutes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Comrade.
I believe it is afternoon there. Where I am, it is actually morning.
Oh, wow.
So I know people are talking from all parts of the world. I have to thank the organizers for inviting me to take part in this discussion. And I'm grateful to be a comrade from Kenya, speaking primarily to comrades in Nigeria. I've seen Duke Ogu eating a very large meal as we started the discussion. How are you, comrade? Anyway, the topic that you chose for your discussion is the state of the nation. I would want to depart somewhat from the topic of your discussion and talk about the state of the continent, the mother continent of Africa. There would be no significant change if all we have is a revolution in Nigeria or Uganda or Kenya or South Africa or any other African state where the African is kept under perpetual servitude by people and regimes that have no legitimacy. I know that there has been a lot of emphasis on Nigeria and Uganda specifically because Uganda just had an election. It was actually not an election, but a fraudulent coronation exercise, a coronation exercise of a tyrant called Kaguta Museveni. But that is not the first, and that will not be the last in Africa, because in Cameroon, we have Paul Biya, who has also been doing the same thing for the last more than 40 years. In Kenya, we have a tyrant by the name Uhuru Kenyatta, who has been doing that for the last 8 years. In Ethiopia, we have a man who was even given the Nobel Peace Prize and who has been doing that for the last 3 years. And we have that in South Africa. We have the same thing happening in Southern Sudan. The interim regime in Sudan that was supposed to bring transformation has started doing the same thing. The man called John Pombe Magufuli in Tanzania has been terrorizing Tanzanians since he took power about 6-7 years ago. And the list goes on. What does that tell us? What are the lessons that we as revolutionaries, as comrades, need to learn from the experiences of virtually all African states? One, power emanates from the people, and power must emanate from the people united in revolutionary action against structures and institutions that were put there by the colonialists and perpetuated by the successive so-called post-election regimes and so-called leaders to dominate the majority of their people and to exploit their labor and to exploit their resources for the perpetuation of impunity. That cannot happen through an election. It cannot happen through an election even if you call it a democratic election. The exercise you had in Ghana was not a liberation exercise. The Ghanaians are not liberated. The Ghanaians, the experiences of the Ghanaians are not very different from the experiences of the Nigerians as far as I'm concerned, because whereas they're rotating the elite at the top from, say, for example, Mahama to Ado, the power structure remains the same. The relationship between the governed or the dominated and the people dominating them is exactly the same. The exploitation of the people remains exactly the same as it happens in every other African country. So I would want to depart from the tone of the first discussant away from the so-called constitutionalism. This is a buzzword for the liberal. The Constitution was designed to pacify Africans. And that is why whenever you have had a revolutionary change in any African country, the first thing we do as revolutionaries is to suspend the liberal constitution so that we can transform and revolutionize the society. Yes, the modern liberal constitution gives us space to be able to speak. For example, the liberal freedoms such as freedom of speech, freedom of association, freedom of any other political freedoms would enable, if they are actually exercised, would enable people to mobilize, to organize, and to be able to challenge the status quo. But has that happened? Will that ever be allowed to happen? My friend, the comrade who spoke first, gave the example of the debate that I had in Nairobi and the fact that I stood on a platform and challenged oligarchs, people who made their money by stealing from the population. What happened after that? I was shortly thereafter abducted. My home was attacked using military detonators, and I was forced into exile. The first time, I was forced bare feet, basically put in a plane after 5 days, 6 days in incommunicado detention and torture. The second time in March 2018, I regained consciousness in Dubai. I was sedated and I regained consciousness in Dubai. Essentially what this tells you is that the regimes in Africa, whether it is the regime of Uhuru Kenyatta in Kenya or Yoweri Museveni in Uganda, or your dictator in Nigeria, or the dictator in Cameroon or any other country in Africa, would not tolerate real, concrete challenge coming from the bottom. And that their sponsors in the West are more than happy to facilitate either the torture, the detention, illegal detention, or forceful exile of African revolutionaries challenging the status quo. Why do I say that? The West were complicit in ensuring that the national revolutionary movement that I started in Kenya was subverted, undermined, and its leadership decapitated, so that there is no real challenge coming from the bottom, an organized challenge to the status quo. And since then, they have essentially made sure that they have had what is called a red alert on my name. I cannot travel to any African country. I'm the only African I know of that is not allowed to board a plane to come to Africa. I can't board a plane. All planes have received, all airlines have received red alerts that I'm not supposed to board a plane to go to Africa, but I can go to Europe, any part of Europe. I can go to Asia, any part of Asia. I can go to any country in North America, but I cannot go to Africa. And all the African regimes have conspired to do this. So whereas they have allowed, say, for example, our brother, Bobby Wine, to run for elections in Uganda, knowing very well that
the Bluetooth device is ready to pair.
Nigger, 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 nigger.
Knowing very well that they would never allow it to take power, the real challenge is on us to make sure that we don't take part.
Nigger.
There's somebody interrupting me. I don't know from where.
The Bluetooth device.
Is my time finished? Hello?
Nigger, 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 nigger.
I think there's an interruption.
Am I muted?
Why,
No, we can
Carol?
hear you.
Meguna, I'll decide to mute everybody. So I'll unmute you now to continue speaking. I'll unmute you back to continue speaking. So you can unmute. Unmute now. Okay, good.
Comrade, that is not very good. I mean, you should let me finish.
Yeah.
Okay, what I am saying is this. I'm going to conclude in a few minutes. I was saying that the regimes across the African continent are very comfortable with what happened in Uganda. Our brother Bobby Wine did a marvelous job in mobilizing the grassroots to challenge the tyrant Yoweri Museveni. But in the end, notwithstanding the fact that he won the elections by all accounts, Museveni took power like all the dictators in Africa would always do, by force. The lesson that we should learn from this exercise is that power will not concede defeat without a revolutionary challenge. The African regimes will not hand over power to a revolutionary through the ballot box. We will never be able to transform Africa by going through the fraudulent election exercises. We will never be able to take power and give the African child and the African person the liberation that the African has always yearned since the so-called independence. I call it flag independence. If we do not organize and mobilize and be able to take power from them by any means necessary. It means that if you can do it peacefully, although it was not very peaceful like the Sudanese did, you have to do that. If you have to go the Burkina Faso way, the Thomas Sankara and Jerry Rawlings way, even though the Jerry Rawlings later on turned not to be that much of a revolutionary, then we have to do that. But elections will not get us anywhere. Our brother in Nigeria, the one who has invited me to this platform, tried in the last election, and we know where he is. They put him in a ditch, and now he cannot even travel outside Nigeria. So my call to all of you is forget about the choreographed exercises called elections. Forget about the liberal language of constitutionalism and rule of law. Those are just buzzwords they use. I make a living practicing law, and I have done that for the last 25 years. And I can tell you, they're happy when you go to court and get orders here and there, because they will not enforce those orders. They will never respect those orders. I have 37 orders from the Kenyan courts, and they have all been ignored. My passport has not been returned, even though multiple court orders directed at the regime said that they should return my passport. I don't have it. My house has not been repaired, that they destroyed more than 2 years ago, even though I have orders that that should be done. The contemneurs, the people that disobeyed these orders were issued against them, sentencing them, fining them. They are still occupying public office. Nothing has happened to them. I have still not been allowed to board a plane and go to Africa, Kenya specifically, despite the court orders. This tells you that the mantra of the rule of law is fake. It is meant to pacify you so that you believe in some myth called democracy, which is not real. The African continent cannot be democratic and cannot be free if it has not been liberated through a revolutionary exercise by the people. That is my challenge to you today, that you have to organize and mobilize to be able to take power so that we can transform Africa, so that democracy can have meaning. Otherwise, we will just be doing this talk, discussions, having these talks, but they are just for our psychological, emotional therapy. Beyond that, they will not result in any meaningful change. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Comrade Meguna. I am sure I am speaking the mind of everyone of us. This was indeed an enlightening moment for everyone of us. And if there is any conclusion we can all make, is that they can't be the kind of Africa we all want to see if we do not force our revolution. So thank you so much for making that conclusion. So I'm sure you all have your questions though and your comments. Please just spend it now again. Comment is going nowhere. So, but in a few, I would like to recognize another very, very brave fighter, and that is, that's is a lawyer, a revolutionary lawyer to be precise. You know him already even before I mentioned his name. Is the convener of Ramimba, that is a radical movement of the radical movement in the NBA, Indian Bar Association. He was not allowed, to contest the last election of the Nigerian Bar Association. The establishment so fear his ideas that much. So, without further ado, within the next 10 minutes, I would like to bring on board Barrister Adeshino Ogunlano. And as an additional information, Barrister Adeshino Ogunlano is particularly one of the major lawyers that is representing NSAS protesters at the Lagos panel. I'm very sure he has a lot of information he would pass on to us in that regard. Especially now that the military have decided to boycott the panel. And you know what that means. That in itself is an invitation to NSAS season 2. So don't let me speak much. So Barrister Additional Ugulano, thank you for making it down. You are on please you're on mute, so please you can go on. Barrister Ugulano.
For inviting me to speak. I appreciate everyone. I must say that I've been asked to speak on the state of the nation, but I'm fascinated with the previous speaker, his thesis or his view on how we can get liberated in the African continent vis-a-vis the political space. I'm fascinated because he's giving an alternative to the common run of thought vis-a-vis the use of the ballot box. It was Chairman Ma who was saying power flows from the barrel of the gun, you know. The revolutionary perspective about gaining power for the use of the people will have to be contextualized in the reality of the African continent dynamics. That summarizes what the gentleman was saying. I may not agree totally with him, but it's made quite a lot of sense in that regard, talking pragmatically and realistically. Well, to our own dear country here, Nigeria, the state of the nation is that the state of the nation is in the state of anarchy. Predictably, the ruling class will change personnel. When you talk of the APC, the PDP, they are both sides of an awful coin. Only nomenclature really changed. We could only say that even the country has gotten worse economically, gotten worse security-wise. That almost as if the country itself is breaking down. Because when you have a situation where you don't, you can't feel safe, you are not feeling safe, and it's widespread, then that is a problem. And on top of all this is the insular attitude of those in government power, believing that they are even doing very well. You could imagine the president of the country, or let me say the presidency. It will appear we have more of a presidency than the president. Reportedly saying that the elites are ganging up against him and that he has done very well, but the elites are just against him. I read that and I was amused that somebody could actually be convinced. Hello?
Yes, comrade.
Can I
Yes,
continue?
we're following. Yes,
Okay,
we're following. We are following.
Someone can actually convince himself that he's doing well in this situation where you do even begin to talk of the rule of law. Something happened in our country last week in the western part of the country, specifically of your state. It took the intervention of a mini warlord, specifically one Mr. Igbohu, to bring a sort of sanity. And what came to my mind is that situation is so bad that gentleman who went there with a lot of native bravado and muzzle commanded attention than people like us and I. Even if you had gone there now, ordinarily to even mass protest or mobilize our people, you will find out that the Nigerian security system will rise up against us. They will criminalize our demonstration. They will say we are trying to topple either the Oyo State government or topple the federal government itself by merely saying that our people are not safe. Fellow citizens are not safe, and other people are coming from even outside the country, are terrorizing them with the connivance of some locals. We will be arrested, we will be dispersed, we will be prosecuted. But somebody went there forcefully, and that tells you that the country is breaking down. That the only voice of reason now is speaking fire to fire. It's not encouraging at all. And it has fueled agitation for separation of the country into diverse ways, the West for the Westerners, the East for the Easterners, South for the Southerners, and the North. But to people like us, that's not the way actually to go. Because even if you go your different regions, or maybe six geopolitical, whatever you call it, it is still the same extractive, irresponsible cabal, elite ruling Nigeria or misruling Nigeria that you find replicated in all these places. As far as one can see, the elite in Nigeria is even worse than the colonizing power in Nigeria at that time. These are looters, these are thieves, outright thieves, who do not care about the citizenship status of the average Nigerian. Because the problem of Nigeria, the social injustice, the mass oppression, it all goes to the issue of citizenship. If we are treated as citizens, we will not have anomalies that we are having, and it's established. The one just mentioned, the moderator just mentioned about what happened at NSAS and not that. We are experimenting with that panel, and we are right in participating. You know, if you go back like two months back, the story was that there was no massacre, that the enemies of this regime were the one just cook up stories and all that. And there was a lot of stories and counter stories. There was no military presence. There was military presence. There was fake military presence. There was no shooting. There was blank shooting and all that. And then the military came. The only person who came was not even on ground on that day. So what he was giving at best, we could say it was hearsay evidence and all that. And there was cross-examined and it was shaking. Now, other summons were given to other soldiers, officers like Bako, Bello, S. Bello, Colonel Bello, the troop commander who brought the troops to Lekki to shoot at people, as well as Omata, the general who came to halt that particular operation and all that. These people have been evasive since. Now that the day of reckoning has come, they are evading, they cannot come. Reddington Hospital came. That's just one of the hospitals that they treated a lot of people for gunshot wounds that day. And people are still saying there are no massacre. And up to this stage, the victims are even yet to tell their stories. Now we have a situation where the chairman of the panel yesterday, or was it 2 days ago, yesterday, said in open panel session that if the military decides not to come, there's nothing they can do. To my utmost shock, I reminded most humbly the chairman of the panel that that's not what the law is, but we are learning every day, because the law that set up that panel, that gives the power to set up a panel of inquiry, actually empowers that panel to arrest, to make, when you issue summons to anybody to come and aid the work of the panel, and that person has refused. That's what the law says. You have the power to order the warrant of arrest to be executed on him. And so this was supposed to be followed through. What's all this one telling us? It tells us that if we want to really be free, the way we see it is just one, that we must work towards citizens' empowerment. For our people to sort us okay. That is the beauty of the NSAS protest that happened 2 months ago, or 2.5 months ago, that happened. Say, you speak up. You do not compromise. You don't sit down look. Because the late Bola Ige was saying, well, in the midst of trouble, you sit down look, because it was dangerous to speak under the military might of the ruler then, the very brutish and brutal Sani Abacha. But we cannot continue to do that. We have to mass synergize. And this idea of people waiting for superheroes, they are waiting for one mighty Omoyele Sowore, they are waiting for Ganifa Emi to wake up from the dead, or Beko and some Kuti to come up. No. We must realize that if this country is going to be liberated, we must fight back. How do we fight back? Some people have been saying armed struggles. Some people have said, well, pursue it through electoral means. But me, what I would suggest as of now is that agitate. It's going to lead to confrontation. It's going to lead to loss of life. But you can't make omelets without breaking eggs. This is the truth. As long as Nigerians, I say, they are still following what Fela had sang about years back, I don't want to die. My father is at home. My mother is at home. My wife is at home. My children are at home. My spouse is at home. I don't want to lose my job. That means we are prepared to remain slaves. If you are prepared to live as slaves, then what's the benefit? Even if you die, you live long and you die at the age of 90, your life is life of slavery. Then what's the point? I want to encourage Nigerians, and that is why I've been saying that, you see, they don't have two heads. People should sort us, okay, that government, they don't have two heads. The security officials, they don't have two heads. And when we were younger, we said, how many people will soldiers kill? Our people must break from the tradition of safe cowardice. And they must break, we must break, and that's the political education we need to give our people. What's the point? Why is education so bad now? All those of us of my age, if you're in your late 40s, you're in your mid 50s, or early 60s, most of us went to public schools. 99% of us went to public schools, and we did very well. When we got sick, we were taken to public hospitals, and we survived to this age. But now what's happening? Everything you have to say, you commercialize, you privatize. What nonsense. Why must anybody have to send his child to schools overseas simply because you say the universities are not functioning? Most people will be blaming us. Say, why are they always on strike? Why won't they go on strike? The government is irresponsible. Again, remember, the irresponsibility of government is because the citizens are weak, are complacent. They allow nonsense. They tolerate nonsense. You remember about 7 or 8 years ago, the former governor of Rivers, now transport minister under the presidency. I don't say under the president, but I don't see the president, just the presidency, said that if people fight back, the politicians, they will become more responsible. We must hold our people accountable. We must hold them accountable. We must appeal to our youth. Don't dissipate yourself in drugs, in sex, in parties, in fraudulent living, and life of escapism. All that cannot make this country great. And we must have a sense of commitment to the country, more than the elderly, because all these old people, they will die off in the next 20 years, 25 years, 30 years. They will die off. The younger ones have more stake, and we must be courageous. It's only a strategy, tactics, and maneuver that we need to bring into these things and be committed to our country politically.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Barrister Ogunlana Deshino. I'm sure we wouldn't have expected this delivery than that. You can't make omelets without breaking an egg. You know, that's powerful. That's a powerful statement. Thank you so much for breathing in. I'm sure there are a number of comrades who have questions for you. So we just appeal that you also stay back as we have other speakers breathing. So comrades, I'm sure you have your questions. So please pen it down. I'm sure they should they have been expanding because the last 3 speakers have spoken so powerfully with thoughts points of views. So comrades, and like you know, today's discussion is much more than defeating dictatorship in Nigeria. It is also about fighting tyranny in Africa. You know, we have Buhari in Nigeria, we have Museveni in Uganda, we have Kenyatta in Kenya, and of course, definitely we have Paul Biya in Cameroon. Yes, we have Paul Biya in Cameroon. And everywhere across Africa, there are revolutionaries mobilizing to defeat every strand of dictatorship and gross maladministration. Today, we have a revolutionary fighter and also a trade union organizer to also share his experience within the next 10 minutes as far as fighting dictatorship in Cameroon is concerned, particularly the people of Southern Cameroon. Permit me to bring on board Comrade Sehaye Kevin. So, Comrade, I've unmuted you, so you're free to fire on.
Thank you so much, comrades. Thank you so much, comrades want to take this opportunity to thank the organizers of this powerful Zoom conference, bringing together Africans in order to, first of all, identify the problems that are plaguing us throughout our beloved motherland, and also trying to find ways that we can overcome them. I think the African problem is that of the spillover of the Berlin Conference, colonization and imperialism over the continent of Africa. And to this end,
Hello, come on, we can't see you. We can't hear you.
yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm sorry, I had some interruptions. I was saying that the spillover of colonization of Africa,
Imperialism.
spillover of colonization, imperialism, cause the current problems that we are all facing across Africa. And until we are able to address the root cause throughout the continent of Africa, in solidarity with one another, we will continue to experience these things, and our people will continue to be suffering, and we will be exposing ourselves to all forms of imperialism and colonization actions. You see, the African continent is operating on a structure that needs to be overhauled and a new system put in place. The current structure of the African continent is about that of answering present to the colonizer. Everything they do is for the benefit of the colonizer. So Africa must unite. A people united can never be defeated. We must unite as Africans to resolve our problems and to seek a common solution for every African child. Now, I will be a bit specific about the situation of the Cameroons, and especially that in the Southern Cameroons. Sad enough, we have a very terrible genocide currently going on in the Southern Cameroons, which I must bring to the attention of all the comrades and Africans, and I will be explaining in some details how this all came about and how we can come together. A people united can never be defeated. If we unite our efforts, we can overcome this challenge and many other challenges that are plaguing the entire continent of Africa. So, what am I saying? I am saying that Cameroon under attack. There is genocide going on in the Southern Cameroons, and people are being murdered on a daily basis. Now, apart from this happening in the Southern Cameroons, the media houses are eloquent in their silence in the communication of this to the African citizens. The African leaders are very eloquent in their silence, the AU and other African bodies. And even the civil society movements in Africa are not taking actions as adequately enough to bring an end to this genocide that has taken away more than 30,000 lives, and every day the killing is continuing and people are dying, women and children. Recently, currently, we have a football match, the CAN 2021, taking place in the Cameroons. And you have 16 African nations that are currently dancing on the graves of the people of Southern Cameroons. Players were conducted into the stadium in armored cars. All Africans witnessed this. Yet the media is eloquent in their silence and they are not even talking about it. And this has even increased the terrorization of Mr. Biya and his military over the territory of the Southern Cameroons. To bring more light to the events that occur until we are at the stage at which we are, to buttress this point further, I want to say that this issue is about a people, the people of Southern Cameroon and the people of La République du Cameroon. During the period of colonization, during the period of decolonization of the African continent, the people of the Southern Cameroons were an independent people that had self-rule after they left the union with Nigeria. They are independent people. And Nigeria, having voted for the freedom of the people of Southern Cameroon, knows the truth about all this happening and has failed to even support the people of Southern Cameroon, instead conniving with Mr. Paul Biya, who is actively committing a genocide that has taken away more than 30,000 lives in the Southern Cameroons. Now, what am I talking about? During that period of decolonization, and the United Nations trust territories were all said to be independent. The Southern Cameroon was one of them. La République du Cameroun was one of them. And La République du Cameroun gained its independence in 1960, while the Southern Cameroons had their own independence in 1961. These territories, the Southern Cameroons decided that they are going to come into a confederation with the already independent Republic of Cameroons in a confederation. Naturally, the already existing parliament of the Southern Cameroons were to seek with the already existing parliament of La République du Cameroun to draw up a constitution. That never took place. But instead, the Republic, La République du Cameroun imposed a constitution on the people of Southern Cameroon without any treaty of agreement, and called that state a Federal Republic of Cameroon. They themselves changed all of those status quo in 1984 to the Republic of Cameroon, which was their name from when they had their independence. And recently, in 2016, where the Southern Cameroonian people, naturally referred to as the English-speaking people of the Cameroons, were asking for constitutional amendment in a peaceful manner. This became a taboo. And in 2017, after they have arrested killed many people, Mr. Biya declared war on the people of Southern Cameroon. And since then, there have been mass killings. Currently, as I speak, we have execution centers in Bamenda. The former airport of Bamenda that was transformed to a military base is an execution center where our people are being bundled for execution there. We have mass graves that are being discovered on daily basis, and women and children are being killed, and the rest of Africa is eloquent in their silence while this is going on. And worst of all is that the beautiful game that used to bring us together, the game of football, they have transformed it to be a political arm, or they come together to dance on the grave of the people of Southern Cameroons using that tactics endorsed by the African Football Federation and FIFA. Yet the African Union and the world bodies are very, very silent. My dear comrades, I want to agree with the strategy that our comrade from Kenya, Comrade Miguna, told us here. The people united can never be defeated. And until we are united in a revolution to stop all the atrocities across Africa, we will never find peace, and our people will never have a restoration of their dignity. We must unite under the Ubuntu philosophy, where we were one another's keeper. I am because you are. And let us pull together to resolve all the conflicts that are in Africa and bring an end and restore the dignity of the African people, and especially the dignity of a Black man. I want to sympathize with our comrade Bobby Wine from Uganda, who recently experienced what is happening. These are a group of people that have come together to keep Africa under bondage. Africa must unite. The people of Africa must come together to liberate themselves against all these terrible happenings. African lives matter. And we want to call on all Africans. This is the time. There is no other time. This is happening in Zimbabwe. This is happening in Uganda. This is happening in Congo. This is happening in Togo. This is happening in most African countries, all across Africa. What can we do? The time for the African people to come together in unity and be one another's keeper is now. We have no other time. We will unite as a people and start looking into the issues of all the issues of the various parts of Africa and bring them under peaceful atmosphere for Africans to enjoy what nature has reserved for them. God has created Africa full of resources and with everything that Africans do not need to suffer. But the colonizers have brought in their tactics.
All right, thank you, Comrade. Can you help round up in 1 minute, please? Just round up so that we can.
Thank you so much. I just.
Oh, damn it.
want to thank you for they keep Africa under bondage, and the time to liberate ourselves is now. And I want to call on all comrades across Africa and in the diaspora to put hands together so that we can restore peace. I'm ready to answer any questions, any further questions as far as the issues of the Southern Cameroon is concerned. Even Mr. Biya himself confessed during the Paris conference how they have struggled to colonize the English part of Cameroon and to assimilate them into the French system, and it failed, which means that the time for the people of Southern Cameroon who have rights to self-determination according to international international law to restore their dignity is now. So peace must return in Southern Cameroon. Let's all come together and say no to genocide that is going on in Cameroon. Thank you so much, comrade.
Thank you so much, Comrade Kevin. So, and I would also implore that you sit back, as I'm sure that our comrades, from all parts of the world, have questions for you. So just a short information. Bobby Wine was supposed to join us any moment from now. Just formed about bad. Of course, we all know that there is a siege against his ability to actually use decent internet. So, but I hope you will be able to join us before the end of the meeting. So we're still waiting on him to get that done. So, but before then, I would like to bring on board, one of our very common. There is a saying that goes thus, that there is no way you can't have a successful revolution without women liberation. Admits publicly here today that our composition of speakers has not been too nice when it comes to gender balancing. We only have just one woman, amidst the list of speakers, and we just hope we'll be able to do better next time. And so join the conversation today to lead us into further discussion is Comrade Nanre Naziga, who particularly, amongst many other things, probably now currently organizes the NSAS International Solidarity Network. A metamorphosis from some of the movements that has a lot to do with the Black Lives Matter in the US. Comrade Nanre, please can you join us in the conversation? I've unmuted you, so please you can fire on. Comrade, I unmuted you. I don't know if you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, comrade.
Okay, great. Thank you. So thank you very much for inviting me to speak here today. I'm very honored and humbled to be in your midst. I'm going to speak today on the state of our movement, chaos or community. The pain and agony of the underdevelopment of our nation is clear to us today as it was yesterday. The violence, the malicious intents of our leaders to starve the nation, to feed their own selfish desires remains a variable that has little changed over decades of misrule. 60 years gone and more lie ahead as our nation continues to saunter as an emaciated shadow of its potential self. But these are not the things that I will concern myself with today, because over different governments, different political parties, different administrations, military and civilian, they remain unchanged. There are more Nigerians living in poverty today than 10 years ago, more children out of school than 20 years ago, more inequality, more violence, and the list goes on and on ad infinitum. But there are some things that have changed, and that is the constant desire of a new generation to say that enough is enough, to say that these things must no longer and shall no longer exist, to find their own voice, the Sorosoke generation, and to say that we collectively are unsatisfied with the status quo. We will fight and we will press on. So today, let's talk about struggle. Let us talk about the movement, what is now and what we desire it to be. Because if we are to build the Nigeria, and by extension, the Africa of our dreams, it must start with us. It must be modeled by us. It must be constructed in our lives and in our homes and in the ways we conduct our business. So I focus today on a few salient points of what our revolutionary movement must look like. And I will focus on 7 points which I feel require earnest and immediate attention. Number 1, political consciousness and ideological discipline. Political consciousness and the most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. That is a quote by Steve Biko. We need to include deep reflection and examination of all the issues that are facing us with systematic and thoughtful dialogue. We must be willing to read, to set up reading groups and libraries and read the thoughts of our forefathers and our present writers. We must be ideologically disciplined. If the newspaper is reporting on violence on the roads by Fulani herdsmen, we should not have the same reports. We should not have the same conclusions. We must have and reflect amongst ourselves a deep class analysis of all the issues, from those who are being dubbed as thugs to those who are being called bandits. We must challenge ourselves to commit to daily reading and analysis of all the issues that are at hand. We must assess them with historical context and the understanding as well as a geographical understanding. We must never think that we know too much so that our humility remains intact. We must commit ourselves to disciplined thinking about all the issues at hand if we are to lead and be at the forefront of the struggle for change. Number 2, the role of women. As our comrade pointed out before I spoke, because he knows I will point it out when I speak, there is no revolution without women. I will quote directly, comrades, there is no true revolution without the liberation of women. May my eyes never see and my feet never take me to a society where half the people are held in silence. I hear the roar of women's silence. I sense the rumble of their storm, and I feel the fury of their revolt. That is by Thomas Sankara in the book Women's Liberation and the African Freedom Struggle. Time after time again, we continue to ask, where are the women in this movement? Are there no women to bring? If there are none, then we have failed. Where are the women in each of our lives, each comrade that is here that is of the male gender? Do you have no sisters, no daughters, no mothers, no wives, no girlfriends, no lovers? If they are not here, then we have failed as revolutionaries. We must make our movements welcoming for women, and we must protect the women that enter our movement. I'll repeat that. We must make our movements welcoming for women to bring them in, and then we must protect the women that enter into our movement. They must be protected in ways that are different from the ways in which men come into our movement, because they may have different needs. And that must be acknowledged. Women should not be pounced upon to make them girlfriends or lovers when they come into the movement. And we must be very, very disciplined about the way we regard women, the way we talk to women, and the way that we consider women in all of our revolutionary movements. Number 3, inclusivity and openness. I'll quote from Ella Baker, an African-American scholar. She said, oppressed women, oppressed people, whatever their level of formal education, have the ability to understand and interpret the world around them, to see the world for what it is and to move to transform it. In our movement, we must rid ourselves of the politics of tribe, ethnic group, religion, and discrimination on the basis of gender and gender identity. We must embrace all those that are willing to be part of the struggle. We must have a diverse movement, an affirming movement, an intergenerational movement. And the more inclusive we are, the stronger we will be. Number 4, decentralization, and a turn from hero politics to liberatory politics. I will quote from Che Guevara: "I am not a liberator. Liberators do not exist. The people must liberate themselves." Our political structures must not resemble the same structures of the parties which we are trying to remove. Non-hierarchical leadership is necessary at this time. It is time for the singular hero of liberation. The time for singular heroes of liberation struggles is gone. The struggle is ours collectively, not of one person, but of all. We must build democratic structures, accountability, and the localization of leadership. We must form leadership collectives and decentralize all our politics if we are to build a stronger struggle that is different from the one that we have met. Number 5, the politics of our streets. When the NSARS movement ended, our comrades asked people to run street-by-street campaigns. And this is something that we must hold very important and very true to our hearts. If we do not change our streets, if we are not known in our neighborhoods, then who are we changing? And who will believe us when we come to ask for their vote if we tread on the path of regular politics? We must knock on each door and mobilize each person where we live if we are to build a strong movement. Number 6, the material condition of our movement must be dramatically altered. I quote from Amilcar Cabral: "Always bear in mind that the people are not fighting for ideas, for the things in anyone's head. They are fighting to win material benefits, to live better and in peace, to see their lives go forward, to guarantee the future of their children." We must, as a movement, move away from dependency to self-reliance. We must form mutual aid cooperatives. We must start farms. We must have a way to meet the needs of the unemployed and the unemployed students and the unemployed members of our community. Because without their dignity, there will be no liberty. And I quote Patrice Lumumba on that. The last point, which has been addressed rightly by the inclusion of members of our Pan-African community in this forum, towards Pan-Africanism, is the 7th point. And I will quote Kwame Nkrumah: "We must unite now or perish." That's a speech that he gave at the Organization of African Unity in 1963. We must care what is happening to our brothers and sisters, and we must stand in solidarity with them. I'm happy to see our brother from Cameroon speak today, as well as our brother from Kenya. It is so important that we realize that the plight of all of our brothers and sisters across Africa and even beyond to the African diaspora, our brothers and sisters suffering in Brazil, being killed on the streets of America, being beaten and maimed in the streets of Europe, we must realize our collective struggle. Finally, I would like to talk about love. Any revolutionary struggle must come out of a deep love for our people, for our land, and for ourselves. And I quote Che Guevara: "The true revolutionary is guided by feelings of love." As we are, so our revolution will be. If we work now to create a movement that offers alternatives, that speaks to the people, that protects their interests, that creates a system of internal democracy, accountability, transparency, and self-reliant economics, then we will truly begin the revolutionary movement. For if we are to create something different from what we have today, it must begin with us. Therefore, it is in our best interest to model the revolution that we desire, not wait until the time in which we have power, but to realize the power which we have now. Thank you very much. That is my contribution.
Wow, that was so powerful. So come with Nan, and seriously, I'm sure a number of us were quite by the ideological power behind the analysis just gave. Indeed, we get all of us into this very articulate class analysis of the issues coming from both the gender question and ultimately the issues. To waste much of our time, sure, so that you comment and raise a number of issues, of them very critical ones that I know would really have comments and questions about. So I'm sure she would still be here to take our comments and questions. I can see a lot of hands up, so there will be time to make comments. But for now, let us have someone I don't need to introduce is the convener of the Revolution Now campaign. Uh, our leader, Comrade Omoyele Shure, please.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, all the speakers from my brother Miguna in Kenya, Naren Nabziga, who just ended, Barrister Ogunlana, who did a fantastic job explaining to us where we are, the moderator, Deji Adeyonju, all of you great guys who have spoken eloquently before me. Let me thank you once again for attending. Let me also thank all the attendants. We are now at 312 participants. We're still trying to get Comrade Bobby Wine from Uganda. And in our future neighbors, we want to get comrades from Ghana because they have a contentious election there. We want to get people from Togo, where a dictator is also flexing his muzzle. It's actually a family dictatorship they have over there. From one generation to the other, Togolese people have been under the yoke of their endeavors. We'd like to also future get people from Ethiopia. When I had a conversation with Miguna, I think he spoke about this earlier on, he said, there is no way Africa will experience true liberation if Nigeria is in bondage. And there's no way, also in my view, that Nigeria can enjoy true liberation if the rest of Africa is in bondage. And I find out that even when we are talking about dictators, we forget to mention our own our own local colonial vegetable here, Muhammadu Buhari, who is a terrible dictator, terrible dictators. Please be reminded about this when you talk about African dictators. I don't want any one of you who are going into examinations around the world to fail your exams. If they say, how many dictators you have in Nigeria, can you name them? And you refuse to mention the one in Nigeria, you would have failed, and we will never forgive you. What is important to mention, what Nare dwelled upon today, which is the role of women in this movement. Whereas we are not doing very well, I would admit, like she said, we also have been lucky to enjoy a great percentage of performance by, well, participation and even risk-taking by female revolutionary members. Principally, we have a lot of them in Lagos. We have lots of them in the UK and the US, and also interestingly in Canada and Australia. So our appeal to them is that when things like this are happening, please join our meetings so that we can see your face, we can hear you out. And I also implore the organizers to make sure that when we have meetings like this, we also put a great number of women to speak, even if it is for 1 minute, because when we were campaigning, when we ran for election in 2019, I remember 2019 and 2018, remember going everywhere saying that we will have equal number of women and men on the cabinet if we won the election. So we are not doing very well in terms of representation in these conference meetings. I would also like to announce, before I go saying anything further, that at 7 p.m. we will be at the Clubhouse. Clubhouse is a new social media platform for audio only. You can join, but I think you have to be invited before you can join. And this is to do an after party of this event, today's Zoom meeting on the State of the Nation. As Miguna has rightly mentioned, what we thought was going to be a state of Nigerian nation is now the state of Africa. But Miguna, I'd like to tell you that, there's this popular joke of a Kenyan woman who had 5 kids, and the husband said, stop, she refused. And then she had a 6th kid. And when he went to the doctor to say, well, we have a sixth kid now. What do we do about this? Say, well, you got a Nigerian now. They said, what? They said, because out of every 6 Africans, 1 is a Nigerian. That's a joke, guys. So we have you on our platform, and now you're a Nigerian now, Meguna. We got to fight this battle together. If Bobby Wine were to be here, he would tell you, or he would tell everybody that if you had contested that election and Nigerians were allowed to vote, I know he won, but the margin of victory would have been some 50% bigger because he had a lot of supporters in Nigeria. Unfortunately, too, Donald Trump has a lot of supporters in Nigeria. That tells you how diverse our country is, our country, Nigeria. But having said that, we have heard it all, and some of it are a validation of why we do what we do. What is it that we have said it? We decided Revolution Now after myself and a number of persons, but particularly Dr. Chidi Nwanyanwu, who is also here, concluded the elections in 2019 in Nigeria. We participated in election. We traveled everywhere. Chidi traveled everywhere in his home state where he contested, Enugu, to be specific, if I'm right, Dr. Chidi. And I traveled everywhere in Nigeria. I traveled to about 34 states, including the Federal Capital Territory. And the people we contested against, one of them was a vegetable. The other one was a very massive corrupt man named Atiku. They didn't go anywhere as much. In fact, when they go to stadiums, the people who attended the APC party convention will come back the next day and attend that of PDP. That's how they did it. But when I talked about ideas, we talked about the manifesto. They even started stealing our ideas. And we talked to small people. We went to farmers, we went to teachers, we went to schools, we went to hospitals. We traveled on roads and stopped. We even met headsmen, Fulani headsmen, and talked to them. But our opponents didn't do anything like that. But when it was time for election, of course, we did everything that's been recommended in the books, but the results came out as usual in the favor of the person who knew how to manipulate the best. So when Bobby Wine was campaigning, Nigerians were excited about it. And interestingly also, the government propaganda people were also interested in it. And they kept trolling us on social media. You see, Bobby Wine is doing what you guys should have done. He's being followed everywhere. He's running for election and he's going to win. And because now you know that revolution can only happen through the ballot. Of course, Bobby Wine is my friend, and I told him, I said, look, I know you'll win. But the question is if you will be declared the presidential winner. So we will wait. And of course, as expected, Bobby Wine won the election, but he was not the person declared as a winner. The person who was declared as a winner is the dinosaur from Uganda, Yoweri Museveni, who did not win the election. And all of our eyes in Nigeria cleared up. And everybody started asking me in Nigeria, so this is what you've been talking about. Of course, I issued a statement immediately on Facebook and told Bobby Wine and Uganda to enter a revolutionary mode. Of course, what happened was immediate. They clamped down on him, put him in a house arrest, including with a minor, and didn't leave him to go out to even go and eat until after they arranged a kangaroo judgment with a Ugandan high court to let him be. But after then, the damage had been done. So what am I trying to say? I should buttress what our brother Meguna has said. That look, we try everything we can to follow the rules, but the people against whom we are contesting ideas, we're contesting for space and turf, don't follow the rules. They don't follow any ideas. They don't care about democracy. They don't believe in the rule of law. They don't believe in democracy. They don't believe in your rights to protest, even when you are cheated. They don't even believe that even if children are pinched, they have a right to scream. And as a result, as I sit before you, for most of you, this is my first outing on Zoom, because on January 1, as you all are aware, myself and the moderator of this Zoom meeting, Juwon Sonyaolu, Michael Adenola, who's also somewhere on here, and two other guys were arrested because we had an outing on New Year's Day, very early in the morning. You know, we had a crossover protest from January 31st, 2020 from December 31st, 2020 to January 1st, 2021. We spent 11 days in harrowing detention. We spent days being moved between two prisons, a magistrate in Abuja giving all kinds of a fluke, claiming that we need to file a bail application orally. I mean, in the written form when we did, she said she needed some other information from a book that was before her. Well, long and short of it is that without us taking a serious position, an uncompromising position, and I would dare say, a position about which we are not defensive, because I see it as a problem for us. Those of us who want to change Nigeria, we are very defensive. They will tell us, oh, we are not supposed to say that the revolution should happen. Revolutions are not like that. Can you define to me what's the meaning of revolution? Even when they know the meaning of revolution, because they want you to be in a defensive state. They want you to turn the other cheek, even when your jaws have been crushed by the state and those people who are benefiting from the state. I don't want us to be in that situation. Let's come to that particular conclusion, that elections are no longer enough for us, because Africa, Nigeria, Uganda, Togo, Sierra Leone, Liberia, everywhere, including even Ghana now, where they have a contentious election, are no longer practicing electoral politics. They don't practice those tenets of democracy that you were taught when you did government in either primary or secondary school. It is the rule of their will. They want everybody to capriciously submit to the desire of those in government, whether you like it or not, whether you are decent or you are not decent, they don't care about you. Somebody just mentioned, and I think it was Barrister Gulano, that a non-state actor took laws into his hands somewhere in the Southwest last week and dared the government to arrest him. And nobody has touched him. But I'll tell you, the reason they didn't touch him is very simple. He's playing the politics in their view that they like. They help to help isolate the problem to a corner where the commissioner of police can handle it, either by dialogue or by force. But when you mention the word revolution, ask yourself, why are they so scared, even when we are carrying placards? Yeah, it is because when we say revolution, they know that the moment that idea begins to germinate and it becomes popular with the masses, nobody can stop it and nobody will be spared of it. If we have a Fulani herdsmen issue in the States, it can be resolved. The people who send the herdsmen there can ask them to withdraw. They can, they can turn the other eye if someone goes and drive them out and there's a few clashes there. But they know that when the revolution is happening, you can't ignore it. That was why NSAS was a big deal to them when it reached its crescendo. And they started saying to themselves and to the public and to the world that they no longer think NSAS is about police brutality anymore, that it was about regime change. They were damn right. NSAS was not about police brutality. NSAS was the nomenclature, the appellation or the alias name given to the frustration of Nigerians who was tired of several of the infractions of government, increases in prices of fuel, food, unemployment, police brutality, nepotism, tribalism, bigotry of the man who is in charge, his vegetative nature and his sensitivity. You can keep counting why people rose in unison during NSAS. NSAS wasn't about police brutality. That was why even when they said they had ended SARS, nobody cared. Even when they said they put SWAT in place, nobody cared. because it wasn't about that. It was just a spontaneous response of the people who were tired of oppression. And when I was asked last week by someone that what can we do to change our objective situation right now? I'm very clear, and I'll say it again. I said we need answers times 10 to last for 30 days. And we would have a different country. We'll have a different objective condition. And people who say to you, and I hear this all the time, so if there's a regime change, assuming it happens, so who's going to take over? Come on, stop listening to that kind of crap. Right now, is there a regime in place? If anything happens in Nigeria that changes this condition that we have, it will be replacing what is a void. There's no government in place right now. We don't have a government. We don't have a president. We don't have ministers. People are just doing what they like. They're stealing whatever they can. They're taking care of themselves. And if you get into their midst, even those who are in government today, they will tell you categorically and truthfully that there is no government in place. Everybody is just getting what they can, hoping that the people will understand the void and feel it. And that's what we are here to do. And that is why we've invited everybody to speak on this and about this, and we must keep talking about it. And I'm glad to rejoin you guys again. When we were arrested last time, their plan was to shift us to DSS again and detain us for a prolonged period of time. But guess what? They were more careful as opposed to 2019 when I was detained for 5 months. They now think that a prolonged detention of any one of you might lead very quickly to an NSAS 2. Because even the day we were released, they came to us on a Sunday and said, we heard they are going to bombard our detention center tomorrow. Please don't let them come. We'll take you to court. And very early in the morning, even before their vehicles arrived, the same vehicles they said wasn't available on Friday, they had arrived, talking us into some kind of calm. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want us to embrace what everybody has spoken about today from Kenya and other places. Don't let us waste too much time debating distractions. Let's keep focusing on what we do. And I say this finally to those of you or those of us who get distracted easily. Anything that happens, we're just like, there's another hero in town, like Nare said. Don't look for heroes. Look for how you can do this by yourself, because you are more capable of doing this than any one of the people you think are your heroes. And I want to say that I'm not interested in getting involved in debates about one person that did something anywhere. Our focus, whenever people ask me, those of us who are in Revolution now, they reach out to me and say, Baba, what should we do about what is happening in Ibadan? Why haven't you commented? I said to them, what is our goal? Revolution. Anything else is side attraction or side distraction. And even our friends in other platforms, today we were trying to even get Kanu to be on this conference, and we hope that will come to the next one. That's IPOB leader Kanu. You guys know that I met him. And it was exactly what I told him in 2019 when we met, that the earlier we come together and fight a revolution together, the better for all of us, instead of, just exerting and overreaching in different directions when we can do this once and for all. Interestingly, and I'm not saying that we influence this, 3 days ago, Kanu tweeted about, I think it was yesterday, he tweeted about Revolution Now. He said, why is it that the generation is under the spell of these people? And he ended it with Revolution Now, and I responded that it's on course already. So guys, everybody will eventually come to that conclusion that what we need is a revolution and not too many side attractions and distractions. And in that, I will end. Everybody is welcome. Everybody with a good intention is welcome to our journey towards a final revolutionary liberation of our country, Nigeria, and eventually the entire African continent. And wherever it is happening, even before we get our acts right, if it is Uganda, we are there with them. Like I told Bobby Wine, he knows already. Nigerians love him. not because we know the politics of Uganda, because we can see Uganda, we can see ourselves in the Ugandan mirror. We can see Yoweri Museveni in Uganda, and we can see Buhari also in that same mirror, and we know our real enemies, whether they're in Uganda, in Togo, or they are in Ethiopia, or they are in Cameroon, wherever they might rear their ugly heads. We know our enemies, and we must keep expanding this platform so that we can expand the democratic space, real democratic space on the continent of Africa. People with ideas and driven by mission and vision that we have always talked about. I want to thank you guys once again for listening to me and coming on our show today. We have an impressive number that's been standing still here. Since I started, it was 325, and between 324 and 325, only one person dropped out at this point. I appreciate, and I say revolution now, a luta continua, Victoria Asata. Have a good afternoon.
Yeah, thank you so much. As usual, come with the show. Yes, I can see a lot of hands up. I'm sure most of those hands would be in line of comments and questions. So, but in any case, I'll be giving everyone who intend questions or comments. So anybody, we're given a space of just 2 minutes. Just 2 minutes. When it's exactly 2 minutes, I would have to stop you or mute if you have not concluded your discussion. So, but for now, let me, in first instance, recognize with now. Adetola, yes, Adetola Sef Onamade. Adetola Sef Onamade is the co-coordinator of Extinction Rebellion Youth, one of our partners in the UK. So, and within the 2 minutes, I'm sure she would have one or two things in solidarity to schools here in Nigeria. So, so my sister will be unmuting you now. So please fire on, Steph.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you, Juan, and thank you everyone who has spoken. We've heard from some real revolutionary forces, and I'm speaking from the UK. As a diaspora Nigerian, the pain that we've felt from seeing everything that is going on in the state of our nation. Shawari just spoke about how NSAS was not about NSAS, and it's absolutely right. The whole corrupt regime is one that was directly imported from this empire that I am speaking to you from. And the amount of dollars, pounds, naira sent to Buhari for his weapons and militia in NSAS or SWAT, whatever you want to call it, the arm of the corruption in Nigeria, that display was incredibly powerful. And I think people are right to be asking, when are we returning to the streets? When are we returning to the streets? We've also heard today from some powerful legal figures. And I just want to speak a little bit about, at the start we heard about constitution and hearing about how, how these things are enshrined in supposed laws for protection and security and to prevent this corruption. And yet those are the very things that allow the corruption to continue and to infest further than they have ever before. It's this neo-colonial mentality that is still there. And that's why I'm so grateful for Sister Rhoda, who has just spoken. All power to you. Thank you for bringing in that incredibly important perspective on how we are to actually liberate, especially in spaces where women need to feel empowered, because that political consciousness that needs to be raised will make all the difference in actually forming this revolution. I just want to speak as a young person as well who has seen young people on the street and felt that pain. And we campaigned endlessly when our brother Juan and you know, the Abuja Five were imprisoned bogusly, okay, because that exact legal system that was able to put you on trial for the very thing that you were protesting against is, like I say, copy and pasted. They were kept as political prisoners of a white supremacist system, and one that keeps all true revolutionary leaders imprisoned. And the only thing that truthfully is able to free that is that political consciousness raising. And so thank you, Rhoda, for that incredibly powerful speech earlier. I won't attempt to replicate anything. I just want to say, please do share that far and wide so that we can increase the consciousness of our fellow brothers and sisters in this Pan-African movement, because it is essential for us, not on the continent as well, to be able to actually actively form this strategy as well. I just want to say that around the legal system, here in the UK, we're actually taking the government to court here over their crimes against humanity, not just for young people here in the diaspora, but for how they have been able to use fossil fuel corporations to corrupt the leaders of our nations on the continent back home and in the global south, or as I call it, the global majority, the majority who has the power, the majority who needs to be empowered. And just want to say that, yes, we've spoken about the legal system, but those legal rules are exactly what keep the ruling power. They are a manifestation of the ruling powers that be. And so, yes, it's absolutely right to be challenging in the courtrooms, but it has to be combined with this wider strategy of raising political consciousness around what those things realistically mean to us and where they don't serve us anymore. Because that is the only way for us to be able to stretch those laws further than they are currently, so that they actually are able to meet the needs. And you're absolutely right, Comrade Shawure, to be able to say that, oh, my brain just went blank, sorry. Yeah, I just want to say that I think it's incredibly powerful what's been done. And I think all spotlight will be on you as well as the months go ahead. We need a strategy now, because Nigeria is bleeding and crying. And yes, there's divisions that we haven't seen in a while that are just being allowed to perpetuate using these legal conventions. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. So we will be supporting you here, and we'll be amplifying the real leadership on the ground, the real leadership of communities of resistance, as Sister Rhoda said as well, not just on the continent, in Abia Yala, which is America, in in Asia. Thank you. Is that time? All
Thank
power to you,
you.
and Alusa continua.
Yeah, thank you so much, Comrade. And for those of you wondering that I allowed us to speak beyond 2 minutes, is because it has been a discussion of all men. So when we have a few of our ladies wanting to speak, I think we should indulge them, a little bit, since we have very few of them on the show today. And before I recognize another comment, I would like to immediately announce and ask all our organizers, home and abroad, to ensure to be part of this meeting to the end, because it's an important announcement, that is going to be key also to our organizing. And it will form the general conclusion of this meeting today. So I will implore us to stay put to the meeting. So now I can see, yes, Baba Haye. I can see his hands up. Of course, Baba Haye is also a person that needs no introduction. He's the co-convener of the Coalition for Revolution, the leader leading from the front. So I would like to unmute him now to immediately give us very sharp comments. Baba Haye, please.
Thank you very much, Timrid. Well, I came in a bit late from another meeting. I met Say speaking, and I was happy to have had Nanre speaking. I think she expresses most of what I would also have wanted to say, and very eloquently. I would just want to sum up. Because a number of people have asked what strategies and so on and so forth. That what is to be done essentially, I mean, because for power to change hands, we must build the alternative power in all sense of the word. And this boils down to three things: education, mobilization, and organization. Political education is essential in terms of to raise the consciousness of the masses, but the educator must be educated, and cadres of the revolution need to be ideologically clear themselves. This will not happen overnight, but just as what Thomas Sankara said, he said something to the effect that a soldier without political or ideological training is a potential criminal. A revolutionary is a political soldier, is an ideological soldier. And whilst, yes, it's important and we need political education programs, study circles, and all that, but in a sense, it starts with each and every one of us. I mean, learning, studying our history, political economy, ideological ideas is not something that you do once. It's something we should do every day. Any day you don't eat food, it's not, ideas are the food of the mind. Ideas are the food of a vision beyond what is, recreating our world. So it is of essence for us as revolutionaries to prioritize our political and ideological training and mobilization. We should realize mobilization and organization are intertwined, but they are not necessarily the same thing. We need to strengthen organization. We need to build our capacity to be able to take initiative because often revolutionary situations happen spontaneously. There's a point Shore had raised in a number of situations that, look, yes, revolution now, we have played a key role in establishing the context that led to EndSARS. And across the country, revolutionary activists, we are active in the EndSARS protest. But to what extent did we provide leadership for this in different, and that is where the place of organization comes in. Regular routine of building from the ward to the local government, strong, vibrant, continuous collective of people thinking together, working together, relating to the communities and different groupings within. And to sum up, I want to stress the importance of we are working masses. And a key element of this is the working class. Often because of the betrayals and hesitation time and again of the trade union bureaucracy, this class is dismissed. But this class wields a power that we must tap into. The general strike, for example, I mean, when you talk of EndSARS, we need to take both the streets and the workplaces. So I would say our different branches have to establish relations with workers at the shop floor, with workers in the different workplaces, in factories, in offices, around where we are. We should not see just those trade union leaders in the national secretariat of the unions as the working class. No. And as we do that, we also should establish relations with, in the rural areas, the farmers collective. We shouldn't lead it to the big farmers. We should establish relations with the market women and men. We should build power from below in our communities, in the workplaces. And as I said earlier, power respects only power. We need to build alternative power with alternative vision, with organization to be able to seize power from the degenerate system. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Baba Haye. Thank you so much for taking your time to breathe in despite your busy schedule. Baba Haye actually did inform me that he hasn't had a sleep time for the past 3 days. it's been crazy. And yes, it still took his time to ensure it becomes part of this meeting. Thank you so much for creating time from your busy schedule. Now I would like to immediately invite. So before I go into that, Bobby Wine already, sent a message of how a number of very, very busy schedule, but he would not be leaving us without a Ugandan representation from its movement over there in Uganda. So representing Bobby Wine here today is his time. So time, and thank you for making it down. I'll be unmuting you now. I'll be unmuting you now to fire on. Please have unmuted. Yeah, please
Take his
go.
time. Take his time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just, okay.
Greetings, everybody.
Hello, comrade.
Say again.
Greetings, comrade. Greetings, comrade. Greetings, comrade.
Oh, thank you. Okay. I've been going. First of all, I've been coming to Nigeria for 40 years now, and I've always been shocked at how quiet it is there when it comes to issues. I had the privilege of being friend and manager to Fela Anikulapo Kuti, and thinking back to 1977, when Kalakuta was being sacked, and Fela was yabbing. Can you all hear me? Okay. Yes.
Yes, loud and clear.
Oh, cool. When Fela was yabbing the thousands of soldiers that were outside Kalakuta, he wasn't a foolish man, and he certainly wasn't suicidal. He honestly and sincerely thought that the thousands of people that were standing around watching this thing going down were going to intervene, and they didn't. Can you imagine how disappointed he was? He thought that this was a moment in which people could rise up, and it didn't happen. Then what happened next? When they doubled the price of fuel overnight. Okay, people came out on the street for a bit. That was it. I don't know, man. I'm inspired to see so many people speaking so eloquently about what needs to happen. Education, recognition of your human right to speak up. I'm very fortunate to, a couple of years ago, been in Uganda, met and befriended Bobby Wine, who I later brought to Nigeria for Celebration a couple of years ago. And I'm sure you're all aware of what's going on there, where Bobby and his followers were able to steam around the entire country in a cloud of tear gas and dodging bullets. Massive crowds turned out for him. Despite that, they were ready to come out, not to fight, because this was an unarmed a situation that Bobby was adamant in saying that we are non-violent. We are not here to fight. We're here to explain how we feel and what we want that is not happening today, that people are now suffering. I think the average age in Uganda is 17, and 70% of those people, or possibly 80%, are unemployed. Okay, he supposedly lost the election, but I'm sure you're all aware of the fact that he's now challenging, because there's enormous amount of evidence that he's been able to gather, despite the fact that Museveni's henchmen have been hunting down those people that might be possessing that evidence. And they've managed to put together what Bobby told me is he's satisfied is a sufficient amount of evidence to go to court and challenge the results of the election. Whether or not, because this has happened several times before, this is Museveni's 6th election that he's supposedly won. And on several occasions, it's been brought to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court, 3 found for him and 4 found against him. That was the previous person that was in the position that Bobby's in now. So let's see what happens. But one thing that is clear is that 9 of Museveni's cabinet actually lost their seats, including the vice president. The council in Kampala, I think more than 90% of the seats on that council are now NUP, National Unity Platform's candidates. So in other words, what Museveni was concentrating on was his own re-election and wasn't paying too much attention to the fact that a host of MPs and councillors and mayors are now appointed as representatives of the National Union platform. So I guess it means that people have got to get up and come out. And I hope that same thing is going to happen in Nigeria. And I'm sure that you find it all inspirational to see what Bobby has been able to achieve. I've got so much respect and admiration for his courage in the face of implacable opposition. And I'm sure you all agree that it's worthy of your support. And I'm sure that he would appreciate knowing that you recognize, admire, and are one with him in the struggle that he's taken on to free up Uganda. He recognized he's not a politician, he's a musician. Same as Fela was a musician, not a politician. Whether or not Fela would have made a brilliant president, I cannot say, but I can say that his heart was correct and that his love was for the people. Nobody could have gone through what Fela went through were that not the case. So, when I met Bobby, I said to him, man, you got balls of steel, man. You're faced off against a military junta. And you need some kind of international profile as some form of defense. And in fact, Bobby feels, and a lot of people feel, that the support that he's had from the international community is really what's keeping him alive. At the time of his arrest and beating in 2018, I put together a petition, which was fortunate in 2 days to put together more than 100 signatures with Bono and Coldplay and Damon Albarn and Wally Soyinka and so many people that came out in support, which exploded actually worldwide and gave him a kind of profile that really, I think, has definitely contributed to keeping him, even though that some bullets have been aimed in his direction, he's still with us. We did the same thing again just before the election, and we're able to again put together 120.
Sorry for coalition. Can we have you get a thing?
Okay, carry on, man. Carry on.
No, go on, please. I will just ask you that you round up in 2 minutes.
Oh, I thought you were telling me to shut up.
No. We just try to round up in 2 minutes, please. Just
2 minutes.
So we can have other solutions.
Well, anyway, I was able, just to finish, I was able to put together another pre-election petition, which this time had Archbishop Tutu and again Wally Soyinka and again all the artists that I mentioned previously. And again, it gets him coverage on CNN, it gets him coverage on Al Jazeera, The Guardian, the New York Times, This is very important, and it's something that I hope you guys are looking at as well, because that kind of coverage gives you a certain amount of freedom to open your mouths and speak up. You know, every time I come to Nigeria, and I come, you know, until COVID started, I was coming 3 or 4 times a year. Every time I get on the plane to come to this crazy country of yours, I got a smile on my face, man, because I love it. You know, I love the energy of the place. I love the spirit of the place. But why is that spirit not manifest more freely, more readily, more? Why is it? Okay, nobody wants to get shot, and I know that your armed forces are brutal, the same as they are in Uganda. But I don't, you know, it's the only solution, man. You've all got to come up, speak up, and stand up. When they changed the price of petrol, enough people came out on the street. Okay, they didn't back down completely, but they backed down a bit. You guys are going to have to shout, and I hope you'll keep shouting, and bless you, and keep the struggle going. Love you all.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Comrade. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So, and yes, I can see a lot of.
Okay, comrades, Comrade Juwon right now, I think his signal is low. He's going to rejoin us very soon.
Sorry, I didn't unmute. I was talking without something. Sorry about that. Without okay. So let's have we have a lot of magazine Korea's okay.
Chidi, I think you can go ahead. Juwon's line is terrible. When he can fix it again.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, let me see what we can do here. All right, like Comrade Juwon said, there's a lot of hands up, and I would let Comrade Wiseman, I hope I can unmute you from here. But Comrade Wiseman, if you can unmute yourself, you can come on.
It seems like I'm already unmuted.
Everybody,
hello,
please
comrades.
Go ahead, Wiseman.
Yes, thank you so much for the discussion. I'm so blessed, especially with the general discussion we are having and getting true information of the state of the countries and the nation, the whole of Africa. Special thanks to Ricky Stein for standing on behalf of Bobby and also getting to us to know the state of things generally. As it is today in Nigeria, and as we are also having it in different parts of the world, we can see the fruitlessness of working within the purview of the ruling class system itself, in terms of election, in terms of this. And that's why I want to particularly think of the issue of what is happening in Uganda, to the extent that we know that there is this constitutionalism of the fact that you have to go through the same thing over and over again. But I don't think anybody can beat Museveni in his own game in terms of Supreme Court and all the rest. So that's why I feel that between the election period and now, there should have been mass political action in terms of protest and all of that in Uganda. This will help us follow up, especially as if you look at most of the videos that have been coming out since after that election, we saw people themselves willing to take up the Ugandan state. But people need direction, which organization has to be a leading voice in that. And I don't think for Uganda to get public solidarity from the whole of Africa and the world generally, we need to wait so much on what is happening in Uganda. Because what matters is that what is happening in Uganda is being used by the ruling class in all over Africa. There are lessons being grasped by the ruling class in all over Africa, especially on how to deal with people, especially on how to deal with the social media condition. As it is today in Nigeria, the Nigerian ruling class is also trying and testing what Museveni did to the Bobi Wine and NUP through the social media by closing the internet and all of that. And we can see what the Buhari regime is doing with People's Gazette as it is today, blocking people from reaching that website.
Can you start rounding up, please, so that we can recognize
Yes, what that also means is that Nigerian ruling class are learning from this. And I feel that we need to actually decide here to have a global day of solidarity action for not only Uganda, but also what is happening in Southern Cameroon. This has been happening for close to 3 years. And you get it. And so even if it's a global Twitter protest that has been joined by the Revolution now before, we can do such again, cabling major demands on Southern Cameroon, on Uganda, on Nigeria, on Kenya, and then globally a Twitter protest. This will help to also fortify our education, fortify our mobilization, fortify our organization. Thank you for this.
Okay. Thank you, Wiseman. And bringing on board within the next 2 weeks, Sio Odulami, please. I'm meeting you now, Sio Odulami, to make your contribution.
Good evening, everyone. Pleased to see everyone here today. I'll just mute my mic to avoid any more conflicts from my side. It's really nice to see this particular meeting going on, and I want to thank everyone who has spoken, including the convener of this particular meeting. I've actually sat and watched what's going on the face of Nigeria, and I think we all are completely aware of what's going on. I'm looking from a solution providing point of view. So, I mean, mine is a bit very simple. Like they said, we need a political system that will change what we've got on ground. We need to actually work on that. And we've got several new political parties that has come on board. But we need to sort of converge on one platform, provide credible candidates for every single position in the country, and make sure every one of them interacts with the citizens as early as possible to give credibility to that particular platform. Now, I know there has been a lot of parties that have been established in the past, but I always work from the solution provision point of view. I'm quite happy that everybody is talking about things now, whereas before in the past, people have not been that interested. The level of awareness is quite high now. And I think that platform should not just provide new leadership, they should also start providing solutions to present-day solutions to present-day problems. So I'm talking of, when a cause is credible, money is not a problem. Because when you can show that a cause is credible and it's going to enhance
just would like you to round up like 30 seconds, please, so that we can have other seconds.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. So anyway, which is why I can't say much, but what I'm thinking is we need to have some platforms that's going to provide solution in terms of nation building, and they can be non-profit, they can be established with transparency of funding and transparency of what is going on ground, so that you can show some credibility to the people on ground. We can all complain about what the problems are, But I think we need to focus on simple, measurable solutions and start putting that into place. That's my own submission, basically. So I think a party that puts good, credible candidates in front of Nigerians now, like yesterday, is very important. Also, doing good things on ground is equally important. That's my submission. I won't take too long. I haven't got much on this.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for the submission. So, Commissioner Sahid, you have 2 minutes. Commissioner Sahid.
Okay, yes, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Okay, good evening all. As Comrade Joan introduced, yeah, I am Comrade Sani Said Al Tukri, speaking with you from Kaduna State. Honestly, I felt highly delighted to be given this golden opportunity to speak globally. I must commend the effort of the conveners of this special program. Kudos to my leader, the person of Comrade Omoyele Showore. He has done a lot till he is bearing the cost. However, I want to advise the general of revolution now. Instead of we continue working on just the social media, why not we set a parallel government or a kind of organization which will set pace, which will serve as a role model that will be checking the excesses of the government, that will show, that will lead by example. This is what the people need. This is what the people want.
Okay.
We should conduct an in-depth research of the basic needs and necessities of the people across the 6 geopolitical zones. And in our own capacity, start making some form of arrangements in which, when we come onto power, it will just be an implementationary stage instead of continue, agitating without having any tangible roadmap on ground or a kind of blueprint that will administer the system when we come onto power, probably by 2023, because that is what we are heading to. So when our revolution is properly actualized. Thank you very much once again. I remain my humble self, Comrade Sani Said Al Tukri.
Okay. Thank you for. Well, we recognize Kazem Adeoye in the 2 minutes. Comment Kazem Adeoye, 2 minutes. I'm hoping we had this discussion by 6:45. Comment Kazem Adeoye.
Good afternoon or evening to everyone. I feel we are evening in London. My contribution is going to be a very succinct, because I don't want to take much of your time. I'm just going to say that, thanks to everyone that came online tonight. That we're doing a good service for generations to come. I just wanted to say that there's 2 things that I feel like we should do. Because for me, I don't like to gloat. I feel like we all know the problems. We should just focus on the solution, not repeating the problems again. So the first thing that I believe that would probably help this movement is we need to have a structure even within this movement. Like the other comrades have said, we need to have a proper structure and a central place where every part of our movement can go. Like, for example, the movement started from TIB to AAC and then to REVOLUTIONNOW. So these elements of of these movements, they need to conjoin. There has to be like a synergy between all these movements, and there has to be like a central platform to which every part of the movement can always go, and it has to be like transparent. Because I feel like people tend to start their own little movements in their own little space, whether it's in the UK or in Nigeria, without leadership. I mean, we all understand that we have a central leader, which is Omoyele, right? But I still feel like, you know, there's no central platform like that everyone can go, whether to complain about something or to nominate somebody to look after a particular region or a particular movement that is going on anywhere in any part of the world. So I think, you know, we need to have that central platform. That's the number one thing. But the second thing that I feel is that you know, in terms of like funding, I feel like, you know, we can actually fund, you know, this movement by replicating that can be beneficial to every member and the larger society, you know, whether it's in Nigeria or even, you know, across Africa and the world. You know, there are black people all over the world, and I feel like if Nigeria can get it right, it's gonna automatically affect the rest of Africa. So
thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone, and good luck.
Thank you so much for that submission. Very, very important submission. Now we will begin us more like a great opportunity to do us before I call on P. Because like I said, we have to run this time by self, and we have very, very important information to also pass to organize that. And fortunately, it's actually in line with what has allowed you just raise now. So thank you for raising that. So then we have Adia now. Okay, Adia, you're muted. Please fire on. You have just 2 minutes, please.
Okay. Thank you. Right. I'd like to talk about how we engage on social media, since it's a tool to drive home some of these points that we have outlined, right? Those who are on Twitter, those who are on Facebook especially, you get some narratives tilting in a certain direction, in a certain pattern. Do well to engage them, educate them, and let them see reasons with you. It's not like, because these guys they're really opinionated. I see Ibrahim Shoa do that on Twitter more often, right? So what I think we should do is, each time you see this, jump on them. That's how this becomes a project. Make a project of it. Get across to them. These guys, some of them are Indomie generation, like we call them on social media. They don't even understand what they are saying. They just jump on it, certain trend, and blow it out of proportion. Even if it is wrong, but they don't care because they are not ready to seek knowledge. But when you try to engage them, I've done that a couple of times, and I've seen people do that a couple of times, especially on Twitter, because those guys on that Twitter are sometimes nasty. But keep at it, educate them, keep in letting them understand the ways to go, especially the narrative that this guy drives on social media. Reno Omokri, for example, he does that on purpose, deliberately so, painting Shore in a kind of light for people to see and castigate, and he does that, So that's my submission. Thank you for your time, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity, Comrade Joe.
Thanks so much. I know the hands up. I will just have to appeal to us in advance. I know we have a whole lot to do. We are trying to close this program, and we still have announcements. So sorry if we may not be able to organize it. If you have any questions for us, please, you can also direct to our email contact@now.ng. Please can direct your questions there and you can be certain that we would respond to you. So I'll be calling on it for today. Please just 2 minutes, please. 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
I was going to bring the horn later, but after him, we'll bring the horn. Yes.
Okay, there's just something I need to bring in and tell Comrade Showore. After the NSAS massacre, the Lekki massacre and the Alausa massacre, most of the revolutionary comrades have been working underground in the streets, working to achieve most of the aims we will be able to achieve long time ago. And we did that, and we've achieved a lot. I can tell you, even now, I'm in a meeting. They are not happy. They want to go back to the street. All they're just waiting for is just to see us, to hear from people like Comrade Omodele Showore. They are moving. They want us to have a leader. They want us to speak. People want to come back. Like everybody.
We can't hear you. Sorry, I would have you because for you. So let's have so after the opportunity comes in now, we have a commission. Let us give a closing remark. But before then, let me immediately make this announcement. There's after this meeting, we're going to be having a meeting of all of our organizers, both here in Nigeria and in the diaspora. We're going to be having all of our meetings of all of our organizers. So take up serious discussion and so better facilitate effective organizing. So don't be surprised if you find yourself as organizers in a WhatsApp group. So you can inform us who are not here today. Please try to pass on that information. And please do not forget, remember the case comes up in February 4th and February 5th. Let's do well to aggressively massify wherever we are in protest and in solidarity. And lastly, the revolutionary movement coordinates even right for the streets. So you don't have to be able, we don't need you to be able to organize your state. We don't need you to be able to organize even the local government. Even if it's just your street, you can coordinate and organize your streets. Please reach out to contact at revolutionnow.ng. Be sure to get the response. I will have Michael, can you help me put up the email again on chat on contact at now.ng. So Dr. Chidi, please call in.
Thank you, Comrade Juan, and I hope everybody can hear me. It's what I want to say is for the rest of us, not really for those of us who already know where we all are. When I watch someone like Omodele Showore watching us make some comments, I just keep wondering how he's feeling. Somebody is saying we don't have a platform, we don't have a strategy, we don't have a structure, and I'm wondering, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? We are not an association. We are activists. We are a revolutionary movement. Every other thing that other people are trying to do, we are already doing it. That's who we are. It's just that we seem to forget what's happening to us. We started this thing a long time ago. You're talking about a new party. Didn't we have AAC? You're talking about experience. Didn't we contest in an election? You're talking about protest. Haven't you done protest? So what you need to do is get up from your seat wherever you are. We taught everybody what they're doing today in Nigeria. The NSAS movement that you saw, the NSAS protest, we were doing protests. We did the protest on 1st October before NSAS went ahead on 3rd. Anybody can rise and do anything. There could be anything, but don't go and bury your head in that. Today it is one man doing something there. People are hailing. You can hail that person, but don't lose who you are. We are Revolution Now movement. We are the people. New party, which kind of new party? Because we already have AAC. So, in conclusion, what I want to tell us is that everybody, need to look back into yourself. Don't come and be asking me, Dr. Chidi, where are we doing? Where should I go? Don't you know the internet? The internet is our platform. The internet is our association. You have a Twitter account. You have a YouTube account. Why do you think we're having this meeting right now? Why do you think that? You think it's because we have an association? Why do you think Comrade One was able to organize this? You'll be amazed the power that we have now. He didn't organize this because he had a lot of money. He just went on, set up a platform, invited people, Omoyele Sowore told him what to do, and there you are. Come up with your own idea, call us, we will put you on the wall. The wall. Our comrade came and he was telling us about global awareness. Global awareness. And you telling us about, don't you know about Sahara reporters? Don't you know about we have the world listening to us. So please, let's stop doing this thing that we're doing. You need to just go back into your head and understand who we are, and let's get about doing what we're supposed to be doing. Everybody's waiting for us, and you are waiting for me, waiting for Sowore, waiting for Juwan. No, we are waiting for you. Do something. Enough of all this stuff. Get online. Do a one-man protest on your street now before you begin to ask me, why are we not organizing? Organize yourself. Sowore has gone to prison. He broke his nose. What else do you want from him? What else do you want? One that organized this thing. When Juwan was in prison, how many did you organize? Did we have to wait for him to come out again and organize another one? Please, let's get on and do what we're supposed to do. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Chidi. Thank you so much, Dr. Chidi. And to give a closing remark, let me emphasize again. Very soon we're going to be having meeting of all organizers, Nigeria and diaspora. So please inform everyone. Don't be, like I said, don't be shy to find yourself in our WhatsApp group. So, come, I would like you to give us the closing remarks.
Guys, thank you so much once again for this remarkable meeting. Thank you to those who attended from different parts of Africa, different parts of the world. And as Dr. Chidi said, probably we don't appreciate how powerful we are. But if you know how powerful Revolution Now is, how people quiver in their boots when you hear Revolution Now, some of you will go home tonight and kill a cow that you're part of it. You can go around and check Zoom meetings of Zoom big association, big organizations. We get 50 people in attendance. We get 100 people in attendance. Even sometimes, for the big people we have, because some people like to use church a lot. Zoom meeting. I don't know if 100 people. The man in 150. We are not competing with these people. We're just using this analysis to tell you how important it is. We have become what we imagine we should become. But do we need more? Do we have to do more? Do we need to broaden our scope? Yes, definitely. Like Chidi said, there's nothing we haven't done. We protested, went to the National Assembly in half a year and called their bluff. We've done everything, some we can imagine, some we can't imagine, some we can say, some we can't even say. And here we are. We are still driving a narrative. I want to thank you guys a lot. We started this with a few people. It got at a point to 330 people. Now we're at 174. It's natural that we've been on for a long time. Without your support, without your help, without your encouragement, without your strength, without your intellect, without your mission and your vision, we won't be where we are today. Please invite your other friends, form Revolution Now clubs, groups, talk on your streets, organize, because ultimately, I tell you this, and I'm saying this to all of our friends who are out there who get carried away once in a while. Everybody is going to come to a final conclusion that the revolution is a solution to our problems in Nigeria. You know, there are people who are talking about parties. We have known parties before, and we are still doing parties. But we will never lie to you that political parties by themselves can win elections under these current circumstances. We won't tell you that lie. But we can tell you a truth, that if we organize very well, we can defeat these guys. They are not strong, they are not powerful. They use the force of arms, they use the armed forces, they use our brothers against us. But regardless, one day we'll sing the victory song. So again, thank you so much, everyone, for coming, for participating, and for staying till the very end. For those of you who stay to the very end, don't let us, like Val Joe would like to say, stop complaining. You know, Amnesty International has that thing. They say, you know, stop agonizing, organize. Thank you. Good night. And for those of you who are here who are at 7 p.m. we'll start after parties and after Clubhouse. And very soon we'll have our own club on Clubhouse. Will be Revolution Africa. Whichever one we decide that it can have this continuous conversation. So the struggle continues and victory continues now. Have a good night. Those of you who are in the night, good evening to you. Good afternoon to our brothers and everyone. Bye.